It's going to be Ross Millen. He's not going to panenka it. Tell me he's not going to panenka it, Davey.
On the 20th of June 1976, at the Red Star Stadium in Belgrade, the final of the European Championships came down to a penalty shootout. Uli Hoeneß missed West Germany's fourth penalty, and all eyes turned to Czechoslovakia's Antonin Panenka. With ice in his veins, Panenka introduced the world to the penalty that will forever bear his name, gently clipping the ball into the middle of the goal as Sepp Maier flung himself to the left. And on the 11th of November 2023 at Hampden Park in Glasgow, Ross Millen perfected that art form. This is the Oh No 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 podcast. I am Duncan Cameron, and we're here to talk about Queen's Park 2, Raith Rovers 3. And today I am delighted to be in the virtual company of Robbie Weir, first of all. Robbie, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm glad you're back hosting because you've got these intros down to a T, Duncan. Absolutely superb stuff.
Up till 4 o'clock in the morning writing that. Also with us is John Greer. How are you, John?
I'm very good. Thank you very much.
Excellent. We have Carol Allison-Smith here. How are you, Carol?
Buenos dias. I'm good. Very good.
Fantastic. Leslie Mabon's here. How are you, Leslie? Fife only for me, please. And also, finally, Blair Hopcroft's here. How are you, Blair?
I'm still buzzing, mate. There's some Fife for you.
Fantastic. Me too. And on that point, normally what we would do is we would sit down and start going through the game sort of from start to finish, but we're chucking that right out the window today because there's absolutely no chance that we could collectively keep our powder dry. So what we'll do is we're going to start at the end of this one. We're going to talk about that penalty, and then we'll work our way back around and go through all the boring, unimportant stuff that happened before it. So on that point then, Blair, you're buzzing, so am I. Tell us how you saw it.
It was just one of the games. It was mental, like that finish. And it's, I know that the guys will talk about the Raith TV commentary in a bit, but it lived out in real time. I mean, we're literally standing in the stand, and I turns to my mate and I'm like, he's no good. He's not gonna. No, he's not gonna. And the boy in front of me who's on the bus with us turns around and he goes, I think he's going to panenka. I was like, no, because everybody thinks he's going to do it. He can't do it. And then he did. And it was scenes, limbs. It was absolutely incredible. A thoroughly incredible day. And for me personally, I wasn't at 1 o'clock. I wasn't going to the game. I was working. And the sort of afternoon session that I was doing with my work, there was really low numbers. So I turned to the guy next to me and I was like, we're merging the two groups together. And I'm going, yeah. Met the bus at Ferry Toll, jumped on the bus, and by 3 o'clock I'm sitting watching the game, and my God, am I glad I did it. Incredible.
Absolutely. And so literally exactly the same thing happened where I was as well. So you're obviously the Rovers players are all in a kind of group, and the ball's there, and a yellow jersey appears holding the ball, and the two boys behind me, one of them says to the other one, who is that? And the second boy says, that's Ross Millen. And I turned around and I was like, he's not going to dink this. And we're looking at each other, me and this other boy just going, he's going to dink this. He can't dink this. He's going to dink this. And I think, I mean, I'm obviously I was slightly tongue-in-cheek with that intro there, but I do want to really, really give credit to Ross Millen there, because that's not a normal panenka.
No.
If it is, the keeper saves it. The keeper stands up, and he knows the keeper's standing up. Yeah. So he actually chips the ball into the side. That it's unbelievable. It's so good.
I was going to say, I'd actually started to make excuses for him before he took it. I turned to my mate and I'm like, but I mean, a point's good. Like, from where we were, getting out of here with a point is brilliant. So there's no real pressure on him. So it's absolutely fine. There's nothing to worry about. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, he's going to panenka
it. John, were you confident when Ross Millen, with no goals to his name for the season, stepped up to that one?
Yeah, well, if you remember, he did it against Morton in the Challenge Cup last season, and I was taken aback then, but like everyone else, I thought, who's going to take this? Gullan's on the pitch. He's obviously won the penalty. More of that in a minute, I think. But I just thought, if there's one boy in our team that I've got balls of steel, it's Ross Millen. And, tremendous. But then, the aftermath of the goal, I thought, I've looked at it about 4 or 5 times. I think there's about 5 bookings in what he does. He runs, he takes his shirt off. He takes his sports bra off. He throws it down. He then runs and slides. He then gets up. He runs into the crowd. So you've got a booking for taking the shirt off. I don't know about his sports bra, but he slide. No, you can't book him for that. But he gets up and he runs into the crowd. He's running into the crowd. The goalkeeper then runs over, picks up his shirt, hands it to him, and he throws it down again. He then goes, no, I'm putting my sports bra back on first. So he puts that on. So it took so much time. And I just, brilliant, you know.
I want to talk about the injury time as well, by the way. But let's stick on the penalty for now. Leslie, is that good fun for you?
It's an absolutely magnificent day. And I think the one thing I'll say right away is I'm really glad that Ian Latto had the presence of mind to have his phone out and to film the whole thing. Because I'm going to be honest, I don't want to kind of like talk about out-of-body experiences and things, but I don't remember much about the penalty. I remember my feet and I remember the concrete and a bit of the grass. And and I remember people saying panenka. And then I don't like remember a lot much else other than that. Like I turned to a folk next to me, and my immediate thought was, oh, brilliant. This is going to run the clock down no matter what happens, and it's going to get us a bit closer to getting a point. I thought, that's it, no matter what happens, this is running the clock down, we're getting the point. And then the next thing I remember is just kind of all hell breaking loose and absolute pandemonium. My wife came to the game with me yesterday. We'll talk a bit more about this later. For those of you who are listening, my wife is from Japan, and she's been at a couple of Rovers games before, but she's never seen anything like that at a Rovers game. She's also 4'8", so I lifted her up so she could see the penalty going in, which is one of the reasons I didn't see it particularly well. And so this was completely kind of different to anything she's seen before. And of course, then there's total carnage, as John has just so wonderfully described. And then things like my dad's mate was sitting a couple of seats down from me, and he's extremely calm. And then this kind of voice of reason voice comes booming out. We still have a few minutes of injury time to play. Calm down, everyone. I'm thinking, aye, that's a fair point, actually. But no, I mean, it's just, for us, for where we live, it's out the house for 12 and a half hours for 90 minutes of football. And it was absolutely worth it for the end of the game yesterday.
A round of applause for Les for 12 and a half hours. That's
100%,
absolutely.
absolutely.
much deserved.
Chapeau.
And while we're giving out rounds of applause, as you say, Ian Latto, podcaster extraordinaire, cameraman extraordinaire, and also I got a cuddle off him in the concourse at full time, and he's pretty good at that as well. So, Carol, you obviously saw the benefit of the experts at Raith TV giving you the commentary on that as well. Did that make that any easier to watch, or were you watching through your fingers as well?
I was watching through I always believed 3-2. Have the faith.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Credit to you for that as well.
Yep. 5 minutes to go. Well, in retrospect, 12 minutes to go. 13 minutes to go. Don't know, my maths is off this morning. It's Sunday. Yeah, watching through. I was going. It'll run down the clock. We'll get a point. It'll be fine. And then I thought, he's going to dink this. He's either going to dink it straight in and it's going to be beautiful, or he's going to attempt to dink it and it's going to sky it. And who cares? It's a point. But I will never forget the commentary of he's ripped off his sports bra. That is modern day football for you. That is, he ripped off his sports bra. He's ripped off his top. And as a sports bra wearer, those things are difficult to get on and off. This is not an easy thing to do. But yeah, amazing. My cat's just scarpered and didn't appear for like 45 minutes.
And Robbie, tell us how you saw that penalty as well, and I think maybe a bit of a word for Bill Orr, who does the sort of the analysis as well. I think a bit of work from him's gone into that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I don't know about the work going into it, but yeah, just the fact that you knew it was coming. And as I said before, I mentioned it on Pie and Bovril, that like the Queen's Park fans, Ross Milne's played for them before, so they know. They're probably sitting there in their heads or screaming out loud, he's going to Panenka it, he's going to Panenka it. But then just have the presence of mind to actually do it and just to watch it go in. It's just ridiculous. And I'm so glad for every single person that made the trip through, because it was a very, very healthy away support that we took there. And that Ian Lattle video is very, very funny, simply because you get the penalty itself and you get the celebrations, and then he immediately turns and starts giving the V's up to the wee Queen's Park fans, which was amusing. But yeah, I did like that Ross Millen in his post-match interview was apologising to Blair, who does a lot of the sports science stuff, because obviously it'll be a data vest that Ross Millen's torn off there, the sports bra, and says that he's just trying to do it for the numbers. So he got an bit of extra running by going to the crowd. But yeah, just incredible. And again, it's one of those ones where 2 points, we've said it so many times on the podcast, probably wouldn't have won that game last season. Definitely wouldn't have won that game last season. And secondly, that, yeah, just builds into the whole sort of tie-in between the club, the supporters, the everything that's going on. And it's just, you wouldn't expect it, but at the same time, you can completely understand it and expect it. And when Carol said 3-2 in the group chat, you're thinking, you know what? I genuinely believe that they could actually do it. And when they did, it was a surprise, but also it wasn't really a surprise, because I've got complete belief in this squad. So yeah,
I think that belief is very evident within the squad as well. I mean, it almost doesn't need to be said at this point that the mentality and everything that's going on through everybody in that team, you can absolutely see it. And again, I think we are well beyond being at risk of repeating ourselves and saying that wouldn't have happened last season. But I think you're now talking about going back multiple seasons, a long way back, to say, would that have happened with other Rovers?
Very reminiscent of that 4-3 Airdrie game in terms of the circumstances. Obviously, there was a goal extra at Airdrie, but even still, it's one of those games where it's the epitome of why you go to football matches, because even for the games that you look at a team like Queen's Park, and we've not really got much connection against them. It's not like a derby, it's not like a big occasion, going to Hampden in those circumstances, but it's the reason why you go to games like that. It's the reason why you'll continue to support the club. And as soon as you get a moment like that, you'll have people talking about that for the rest of their days. Absolutely.
100%. And it's one of these, but that Airdrie away game was one of the very few games that I missed that season. So I feel like I've had a little bit of payback from the footballing gods for that one, because that was very good fun yesterday. But right, let's come back down to earth a little bit. Let's go back to the start. So it was an unchanged starting lineup from Euan Murray, which we'd obviously, you guys had talked about in the week. There was Dylan Easton sort of knocking on the door. I think a couple of us expected that change, but he didn't make that. But I mean, to be fair, the guys that were there had done enough to kind of keep their place. That whole first half, then, Lewis Vaughan, an excellent goal to take us in sort of 1-0 at half time, but a very, very even game. Let's come to John. Let's come to you first of all. Just to kind of talk us through how you saw that first half and your general kind of thoughts on the opening period.
I thought we kind of worked our way into the game, and we then started to get what we talked about. The big pitch started to play quite well, knock the ball about, and then it was a really good goal and a well taken goal by Lewis Vaughan. And I think there was the one chance in the first half where I'm not sure what player it was at Queen's Park, but he broke through and he had a shot that kind of did look as if it could have troubled Kevin, but it just seemed to drift away. Other than that, I don't remember them having too many opportunities. I think they got round us a couple of times on the far side, but they didn't really capitalise on that. And I thought we were quite comfortable at 1-0 at half time. But
yeah, I really agree with you. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
John, you mentioned about the big pitch, and to be honest, regrettably, I've been spreading fake news because Ian Lato's brother, Roulette, who is formerly a groundsman at Starks Park and now I believe he's at Murrayfield now. He actually said the dimensions aren't too maybe like a few feet extra compared to Starks. So actually the big pitch thing's a bit of a myth. So he was very quick to respond and tell me that. So sorry for spreading fake news and bringing the reputation of the podcast down.
Right, I'll take all that back then. We played very well on the kind of average pitch we were playing on. I thought we played very well on an average pitch. It's about time Hampden got a bigger pitch.
It's hard to believe that there's people out there with more expertise than us, but when there are, I think we're always happy to be corrected. In terms of the game though, John, I agree with you. I think that first half, for me, I've not looked at the numbers. That's not what we do here. But I think it felt like sort of Queen's Park had more of the ball and maybe even more of the territory, but we had more of the chances. And I think we were kind of comfortable with that, sort of trying to get forward quickly. And Lewis Vaughan does what Lewis Vaughan does with that, where it's a very sort of deliberate little move that he's got, where he almost runs the ball into the defender's legs. Tries to get the defender really playing sort of underneath himself. And at this one, it comes off where it's that little double touch, and he buys himself that space in the box. And as you say, it's an excellent finish. Carol, going in at half time, were you? Well, we 1-0 at half time. Did you think it was going to end up 3-2 at that point?
There was more goals in the game. My concern, and I think Euan Murray mentioned it in this post-match interview, that if we'd gone, it could have gone either way when we were 2-1 down. It could have been an absolute humping. And I think previous seasons we could have lost that 4-2. But there was something in the body language when we went 2-1 down, just instead of heads down, physically people just going, come on, let's go, let's keep moving. At half time, they looked all right. There was definitely more goals in the game, but my concern was still that Queen's Park, they were going to score. Because even though they'd had their defeats against Dundee United, that big defeat, they had been scoring consistently between that game and this game against Raith Rovers. So they've got goals in them. Thankfully, only 2 of them, and we had 3.
That's it. I mean, Rory Paton, I think is now the joint top scorer in the division. So for all they've been very disjointed, they've got that kind of danger up front. So there's always a likelihood of that. So let's fast forward a little bit then. Let's get up to the red card, where I think particularly those of us who were in the ground might have a little bit of maybe a slight apology to make towards the referee on this one. Blair, do you want to pick that one up?
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't have to apologise to the referee because I was just flummoxed. Like, I couldn't say that's a shocking decision. It didn't look from... The thing is, like, I mean, we talk about playing at Hampden and stuff and how great it is. It's rotten. Like, the view that you get from that bottom corner, you can't see anything at the top end. It's a horrible way to watch a game of football. Do you know what I mean? And I kind of think, like, had we been at a better angle, you might have had a better view of it. But the tackle at the time, I thought there was nothing in it. To be perfectly honest with you, live, it didn't look a lot. But I said to my mate, I was like, the way they've reacted and the way we haven't jumped to defend them, like there was no kind of hounding the referee, didn't listen to them, he's full of nonsense. The Rovers players kind of went, and all the Queen's players were like, and there was, I think it was Paton actually, was right over to the linesman. He's like, you're in his ear, like you've got to say something, because he was going to book him. But no, there was very little argument, and Euan Murray hid, which I always think is a really telltale sign. As soon as it happens, he's like hiding at the back of the group like he doesn't care it was me either.
Can I just say, sorry, can I just come in here? I found it a really strange incident because you had a referee that was maybe 15 yards away, and then you had a linesman that was 50 yards away. And it seemed to be that the linesman was the man that made the decision. And that's, I just find it a bit strange. But the other thing is as well, there are certain teams who the reaction of the opposition players makes a decision.
I think it was a red though, John. Like, we've got to be honest, it was a red card.
Oh, listen, yes, at the moment that it happened though.
Yeah, I think it's interesting when you're talking about the linesman. I think it's the angle. because I
Yeah.
think from where the referee is, I don't know if he knows if he's made contact, because the ball kind of kicks up. And when you watch the replay, I think Murray's gone into the tackle and thought, oh, the ball's there to be won. And has kind of lifted his leg to try and play the ball. Completely missed it. I don't think he's gone in. It's not a Euan Murray type of tackle.
Yeah,
I really
it's not malicious.
I don't think he's gone in to chop him. I think he has caught him though. And I think it's a linesman that's saying, yeah, he's made contact.
So I wonder if actually looking at on the replay, the order of events might not be slightly different. I wonder if the referee doesn't actually know straight away. He knows he's going to send Murray off, but he gets the yellow card out for the reaction, because the boy is straight up and in Murray's face. And I wonder if, because actually, when you see it back, it's so clearly a red card that actually I would be quite surprised if the referee's seen that and thought it's only a yellow. So I wonder if he's maybe done that sort of, like, well, that's so clearly a red card, I can almost park that. I'm getting the yellow card out, I'm going to sort out the Rammy first. Yeah. And then it's almost, again, I think that as soon as that challenge goes in, I think the linesman's in his ear just saying,
to be fair, he might be asking the linesman if the reactions are red as well, because he's maybe not. You might be right, actually. Yeah.
But at the time, I thought the same as you. I think I maybe said, I certainly said to my dad, I was at the game. It was like, that's one of those where, like, he's off the ground, but he's won the ball, so it's a yellow card. If he catches the man, it's a red. But he's not, and then you see the replay, and it's like, yeah, quite clearly has. He catches him round about the ankles, like it's definitely it's a red card. Yeah. Anyone want to disagree with that? Anyone seen that and not think that's a red card?
No, I think you'd be on a hiding enough, and we've already spread enough fake news on this podcast over the last week, or me certainly, to get into a position where I would be disputing that it's a red. I think that just, looking back, it's when you see the Raith TV highlights, it's quite clearly in that position, which is unfortunate. And again, I don't think it was malicious at all. I don't think anyone would really suggest that, firstly, Euan Murray's that type of player, and as well that he's gone in with that intent. But it's just, he's tried to win the ball. It's just not worked out. And these things are going to happen. Players make mistakes. So we've just got to deal with the repercussions of it and how it will pan out over the next few games.
I think that's the thing. I don't understand the rules well enough when it comes to this kind of stuff with cups and leagues and which carry over and which don't. I mean, our next two games are both cup games. So is he suspended for them? Is he not suspended for them? I'm presuming it'll be 2 games.
At least one, because it's violent conduct he got sent off for.
Yeah.
So surely you missed the next one for violent conduct. What happens after that, I'm not sure. But he's definitely not available for Hamilton.
There's something in my head that says Scottish Cup.
So Murray's post-match, he was like, it's a red. And there was no there wasn't even any signal that we might try and appeal it. It's just like he just says, we're going to suck it up.
Yeah,
so
and
whatever he's out for.
Again, I think that comes down to the analysis side with technology nowadays, that you see them on the touchline with iPads, and you've got the likes of whether it's John Potter or you've got Bill up in the stand, being able to sort of be in his ear straight away saying, yeah, I can see the footage, clear red. Like, if there was any dispute in it, Euan Murray would have been straight out in the press conference after the game saying, yeah, it's not red. But again, quite clearly it is, and it's just, again, it's unfortunate. It's one of these ones. These are going to happen though. It's the way.
It's one player. So one player we did not need with a suspension, our only fit senior centre half.
And you know what's funnier as well is the fact that with nobody is taking this as having a go at him, because he's going to be non-compos mentis when that penalty hit the net. But Ross Millen tearing off his shirt means that he's going to have a suspension as well, because he's moved on to the next he's covered the threshold for bookings. But Ross, frankly, we don't care. We don't care in the slightest. Scott McGill can probably figure out how to play somewhere on that back line. We'll get it sorted. If we need to go through that for that, then absolutely fine by me.
And on the topic of Scott McGill, so obviously the red card goes up and Euan Murray's got some decisions to make. And I think there's a very clear sort of sliding doors moment at that point when he's got to decide who's going on there. And he's really got a straight choice. So he needs to retain his back four. There's now a big gap in it. He can either put a defender in and add Adam Masson in as the centre half, leave everyone else where they are, or he can add a midfielder in Scott McGill and try to get a little bit like he did when he talked about playing Scott Brown over Adam Masson is by playing a midfielder, you get yourself going forwards a little bit. Now, at that point, still 1-0 up, and he opts to go for the midfielder. He opts to put in Scott McGill on his wrong foot, in at left back.
Up against Dom Thomas.
Up against Dom Thomas. More about him to come. And that is a very, very bold decision. And I'm almost tempted to ask everyone to take themselves in a kind of headspace to about the 85th minute and tell me how you felt about that decision. And then we'll revise it given what happened after that. So, in fact, yeah, let's do that. Blair, let's start with you. How did you feel about that sub at the time, and about what kind of happened then over the 2 goals that we conceded?
Yeah, so I'm going to be quite bold and say that I'm not going to revise how I feel about it based on the fact that McGill got the assist, which we'll come to in a bit. I think it was the wrong decision, and I think it played out as the wrong decision, other than the assist. He went with McGill, sorry, and I completely understand why he did it. Because putting Masson in alongside Scott Brown, it's quite a big ask when you're down to 10 men and they're going to be flooding the box. I can get why he did it, but Dom Thomas saw it and instantly moved about 10 yards, well, according to Mr. Lato, it's about 4 yards further out, but he moved basically straight to the touchline, and he went wider than any winger or right-handed midfielder is ever going to go. And McGill had no clue what to do. He didn't know whether to go, whether to stay. He got himself off flummoxed. And both goals, and I'm going to completely say this, no fault of Scott McGill, but both goals were caused by Scott McGill being in there, and it's not his fault. It's not his position, and he can't play it. Not to that extent. The way that Dom Thomas played him, you need an experienced defender, and actually I would say an experienced fullback. And I think that's the thing where I feel like Dick would have dealt with that better. It's the side of the game he's good at, that defensive side. But yeah, Dom Thomas just peeled as wide as he could, and you could see for both goals, McGill's like, do I go, do I not go? And Dick's no talking to him. And that was the other thing for me, is they just got caught in this weird no man's land of no really having a left back and no really having a centre half, because Dick's probably at fault for the second goal as well, because he's the man that should be picking up Paton, I think, because Brown's got another man behind him. So yeah, it was a bit of a shambles at that point, to be perfectly honest.
Yep. I think if you take a right-footed midfielder and you drop him in at left back, and then you were to compile a list of the wingers in this division that you don't want to have to go up against,
100%.
Dom Thomas is in the top 3 in that list easily. Dylan Easton's right up there as well, and then you've got your likes of Glenn Middleton, Kai Follering, these guys at Dundee United. But Dom Thomas is one of these guys who we've all seen games where he just doesn't feature, but also you give him that little bit of encouragement, that kind of thing. He's one of these guys who, if the first thing he does in a game is good, he goes on to have a good game. Yeah. And he's been kind of peripheral in that game.
Bobby
and then straight away, exactly, you say to him, all right, Dom, this guy actually doesn't really like playing left back and he's right-footed. Dom Thomas is rubbing his hands. And
I feel like we play into his hands as well, because Dom Thomas is a dick. There's no two ways about it. He is. And he's the kind of dick Dylan Easton's a dick. And it's the kind of dick you love in your team, because he just noises people up. But he's the kind of player, and I laugh. I think it was Stephen O'Donnell was talking about playing against England. He played against Jack Grealish. And he's like, he knew if he went in and started giving him like dog's abuse, he would love it. So he just spent 10 minutes going, oh, your hair's really nice. How'd you get your hair to look like that?
You know what I loved about that?
Your casts are incredible.
John McGinn said that, like, if you wind him up, you're just going to just play into him, and he's just going to tear you to shreds. What to do is just go out and compliment him, be lovely to him, be really nice to him. So he just says, your calves are fantastic, by the way. And that was it. Yeah. And then we just spent
the fans play a part in this as well, because we are booing him and giving him stick, and he's applauding us going off and all the rest of it, which I love. I love all of that stuff. But it plays right into his hands.
Leslie, I think your wife has some strong feelings about Dom Thomas, I believe.
Yes. So, like, my wife's been to a few Rovers games, and I mean, she's also been to a lot of games in Japan with me. And the thing about Japanese football is great, brilliant atmosphere, but there is no aggro and there's no shithousery. It's all very polite, it's all very nice. And that's great, and that's absolutely brilliant. However, you very rarely get people getting wound up by opposition players. So just for a bit of context as well, my wife is 4'8". She fits in that junior-sized goalie top. She actually wore it yesterday to Hampden. And, her kind of experience of football has been, kind of very polite applause and things like that and all the rest. She didn't know his name, but she got properly wound up by, and I quote verbatim, that number 11 who looks like a squashed potato who was clapping when he went off. And, he was applauding when he went off. And I mean, like Blair just said, we've got guys that do it, Dylan Easton does it, Ross Millen does it. Part of the kind of trade-off is you've got to just suck it up when the opposition do it to you. But my wife was properly getting into this. She was properly getting wound up by this guy, applauding as he went off, and then sucking up the guys who were getting absolutely out of their minds down at the front in rage, turning into a dribbling, slavering mess. So if you'll just forgive me for the purposes of the narrative of fast forwarding to the very end of the game, when we are winning 3-2, Queen's Park's heats have gone. They've taken all their best players off. And then Dom Thomas's coupon appears on the big screen. This absolutely tipped myself and my wife over the edge. I mean, this graphic gesture towards a big LED screen is not something that kind of refined and educated people should do, but it was just part of the day, seeing that big mug appearing. There's nothing better than the man of the match being awarded to a player who you love to hate when they've just lost. So an absolutely glorious end. And, as I say, part of it is that trade-off. We've got guys that do it. When they do it to us, it's all part of the kind of pantomime villain thing. But no, a great day out for my wife being introduced to the dark arts and the shithousery of lower league Scottish football.
Can I ask you a question, Les? Now, you quickly came on our chat and you said you'd made the train. Did your wife tidy up all around her like Japanese fans are prone to do when they go to games? I hope she did now.
Oh, we absolutely did. We took a wee cloth bag with us and we took our cups away with us and things like that and put them in the recycling point outside. There wasn't actually that much to tidy up because the catering was so incredibly overpriced at Hampden that I don't think anybody actually bought anything. I think if next time we have a friendly or whatever against Japan at Hampden, there's going to be nothing for them to clean up because nobody's going to buy anything.
Yeah, a guy in front of me came back, 3 pies and a Diet Coke, 18 quid.
What?
Yeah.
I bought a portion of chips, £4. And it was like this tiny little portion of chips, and they weren't chips. I don't know what they were. They were like stringy and chewy. It was weird.
Well, we meet Phil Nicholson at Hart Hill. I park my car, go through the village of Hart Hill, which is an experience seeing all the Union Jacks and everything flying there. And then you park up, we buy him a coffee. I take out a mortgage to pay for it at Hart Hill. And so equally as bad there for pricing.
But to go back a step just a little bit to your point there, Les, about the big screen, that's so good. I think all victories should be accompanied by like a 30-foot LED vision of your biggest sort of antagonist over that game.
Or just
so good. Just big smiley Dom Thomas as we were celebrating. That was so good. I enjoyed that so much. Thank you sincerely to whoever at Queen's Park is in charge of that, because that was really, really good. I don't know if you saw during the week, there was a team in Peru that won a championship away at the rivals ground, and they just flicked the floodlights off. This was the opposite. This is just, here's giant beaming Dom Thomas to watch you all celebrate.
If we beat Dunfermline the next time around, I wonder if they can do that for James McPake so he doesn't have to watch us celebrate and cry again.
Duncan, can I say that's become a theme of this season. We played Partick Thistle, we're 2-0 down. They took off Brian Graham, and I think it was who's Lawless, Stephen Lawless. Queen's Park came to Starks Park, they're winning. They took off Dom Thomas and was it Paton they took off that day as well? And they've done it again yesterday. And when they were doing it, I did say this could come back and bite them again.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Robbie about this actually, because it was something you said last week, which to be fair, sort of stunned the footballing world when you said that you quite like Airdrie. But I think when we kind of dug deeper into that disturbing comment, what you were saying was that there's a lot to like about this Airdrie team and sort of how they go about their business. Kind of contrasting that to this Queen's Park team, I think there's a lot of similarities there. You know, they've got young coaches, they've got young players that they're trying to kind of do the same thing. But where there's quite a lot to like about the way that sort of Rhys McCabe, goes about his business and sets his team up, are Queen's Park the opposite of that? Is there a lot to point at and really not like about the way Robin Veldman is going about things?
It's a funny one because they're not a bad side to watch. They're not like Morton, for example, where you just think, man, they're just garbage, aren't they? Which was, again, very funny to see Dougie Imrie getting called out for saying we just need 6 points and we're in the playoffs when they're 9 points behind Airdrie, which, Dougie, not your strong point there, is it? But yeah, with Queen's Park, it's almost like they've got an honour system where they're like trying to philosophise and play this football that's like, okay, we'll pass it out from the back. We'll do this sort of death by high press almost and sort of stick to it. And we'll use these young lads and we'll bring them on. But if you're going to sub off your best players, you cannot then blame the lads that you bring on who are, 16, 17, 20 or so, and then say, well, it's men's football now. Because what are you expecting? Like, it's almost like you're like, okay, I'm going to create a problem for myself. Oh, well, we shouldn't be doing that. Why has that happened? It's almost like Veldman's really, really naive. And there was sort of suggestions on Pie and Bovril from Queen's Park fans. Apparently, Maren Bucher was sort of pulling the strings. People in hospitality claiming that he was the one that was sort of saying we need to do this sort of stats-based tactical substitutions, which, yeah, just it doesn't make sense. Again, statistics are a very funny thing. If you look at the player that's got the most goals per 90 minutes in this league, if anyone can get it, I'd be very surprised. Does anyone want to take a pick? It's Kieran fucking Mitchell. Kieran Mitchell is currently in the championship. He's got 9 goals for 90 minutes because he scored in a 10-minute spell, much while how Ethan Ross has statistically got the most assists. He's got 2 per 90 minutes compared to everyone else. So you just get these little anomalies. But yeah, it's just like very, very naive. And it's twice he's done it. And thank you, just really, because they should have been home and hosed. And I mean, you've also got to give a tremendous amount of credit to our lads for never giving up and the fans for sticking behind them. But yeah, just a very, very strange sort of setup that they've got. And you can see what they're trying to do, and especially what they're trying to do in terms of Hampden as well. I think that should get called out, the fact that they're sort of they're eyeing up the top flight and, oh, we've got lesser Hampden built for league games. Oh, we'll just move back to Hampden. And, oh, by the way, we're going to give 40,000 seats to the Old Firm when we get there. It's everyone can see through it and everyone knows what's going on there. But yeah, just time will tell. But they're not heading in that direction at the moment. They're looking the other way. So that's nice.
I think with Veldman, it's
naivety.
Yeah, let's.
I'm going to come in very quickly here. The reason I was looking down was that I was scrolling through my phone. And the reason I was scrolling was to get to the bottom of the Dutch Eredivisie table to see where Ajax are in that table. Now, we all know about the links and the purported links between Boyker and Ajax. We also know where Manchester United are in the Premier League in England, where, of course, coached by Ten Hag. And I would just like to put it out there that this whole system of statistics and whatever that comes with it, that kind of manager and coach is buying into can get in the bin. And it absolutely did us a huge favour yesterday. I mean, I think like we've all just said, like Robbie's just said so well, and John said, it's like the Partick game. They start taking all their best players off, when they're not actually winning that comfortably. If you're 4 or 5-0 up, fair enough, start bringing the youngsters on. Anything can happen at 2-1, even against 10 men. And you're making a rod for your own back. So I'm very delighted that this whole Ajax style kind of youth and possession and player performance forms thing has donated us some more points.
That's exactly it, and it's the kind of statistical approach to substitutions. I remember Lee Johnson talking about it at Hibs as well. I don't think he's part of the Dutch school. I think he's just an odd guy. But he was saying that because he'd taken someone off in a game and he was asked why. And he was like, oh, he'd entered the red zone for his own personal fitness metrics. So you're like, all right, Lee, but you get beat. So, and Dom Thomas is a perfect example. Dom Thomas could have no boots on and he would still have contributed more in that last 10 minutes because of exactly the type of player he is and the type of personality he is. It doesn't actually matter fitness-wise. Because if you're Queen's Park, that last 5 minutes even, you can just knock the ball into that right channel. Dom Thomas is going to get the ball and Scott McGill is going to have to snap at him like a terrier, and Thomas is going to be throwing himself down. He's going to be throwing his elbows out, and all credit to him because it's exactly, and you said it, Blair, it's exactly what you would want Dylan Easton to do, and it's exactly what Dylan Easton would do. And if you imagine, we flip those roles around, we were 2-1 up against 10 men with 5 minutes to go, and Euan Murray took Dylan Easton off, you'd be going absolutely tonto. If you took Dylan Easton off and put, and like, no, it's not criticism or anything like that at all. But say he takes Dylan Easton off and puts Callum Hanna on, a guy who's only played a handful of games. That's the equivalent.
Exactly.
And you're asking a guy to go out and try and manage a game when he's only played in 3 before.
Yeah, that's 100% it. There's a time and a place, and I'm not dismissing statistical input at all because I think it's very, very valuable, and there's a reason every club goes for it, and we all know sort of how it can work. But by the same token, there is a time and a place where just you can't write off experience, and I think it's very clear to see. But yet they seem to think they know better. So long may it continue.
The beauty of football is that it's no baseball. It's no money ball. Do you know what I mean? Statistics didn't win you a game. You can be the worst team and playing against the best team and you can still beat them. Do you know what I mean? And it's one of the things I always love about football. Like, any player can score. Like, your left back could be up at a corner and score a goal. Like, it's not just your strikers. Like, it's the complete lottery of football.
You just have to score one more than the other. That's all you have to do.
I think I'm going to kind of call out Veldman a wee bit. I think he's an absolute fraud. I really do. I think he's getting away with this long-term project narrative, right? If I'm a Queen's Park fan, and I get that they don't have a lot of fans, I think we've got to be really honest about that. And credit to anybody who supports Queen's Park living in Glasgow. Hats off to you. But they don't have a lot of fans, so they have to look at, I don't know if it's about bringing players on that they can sell because it's really their only way of making revenue. I don't know what that is, but he has made them worse. They were second in the league last year, and granted they had Simon Murray, right, which is a big loss for any team, and you could see that derailed their end of the season. But he has made them worse. Now, if you look at yesterday's game, Euan Murray will quite rightly get a lot of credit for the substitutions that he made, bringing on Hamilton when he did, bringing on Gullan when he did, and they two were, and I know we'll talk about them, they were excellent. But if Veldman doesn't make the substitutions he makes, I still don't think we necessarily win that game. I still think the ball's in their court.
And I think as well, you could say that about the first game as well.
Yeah, we won that game because of the substitutions. I had a wee look. So he took off Louis Longridge, right, who's 32, oldest player in their squad. He took off Ben McPherson, who granted is young, he's 19. He took off Jack Thompson at 23, and he took off Dom Thomas, who's 27. He brought on Hepburn, who's 19, Moughlan, who's 18, Pat Jarrett's 21, and Aaron Healy's 20. And then he goes in the interview afterwards, as Robbie said, he trots out the line of, it's no boys football anymore. Well, give them some men to work with, because you're absolutely chucking them under a bus and then calling them out for it. He did it to, I tell you a player I was one of the ones I was going to talk about in the pre-game thing when we talked about players in the other teams who you like. I actually really like the boy Tizard that they've got, the centre half. He looks like he's got a bit of potential. He made a mistake against Airdrie. He hooks him straight away. And actually, in the interview, chucks him under a bus.
Yeah.
And it's this thing of continually, when they finished the game, the oldest player they had on the park was 28 years old. And before that was Callum Ferry at 25. And then it's like 21, 22, 23. They're kids.
That's it. And it's all the encouragement that you need if you're the Rovers there. Just
100%.
thinking there's a chance in this for us. Rather than, again, like Louis Longridge, I don't think anybody's going to stand up and back Louis Longridge as a standout player in the championship.
No.
But if you can have, to try and see out a game, if you can have 3 teenagers, or you can have Louis Longridge and Dom Thomas, I'm taking those 2 every day to just try and see that game out. But it was not just a case of Queen's Park throwing that away by any means at all. I think we need to get back to the Rovers and dish out some credit to these guys that did come on, as well as the boys that stayed on. I thought Jamie Gullan, I've been critical of him previously. I think he was excellent. Now, he was given the role of running that left channel, which is handy because that's what he's going to do anyway. So you might as well. But he was excellent. He's such a strong runner.
For me, I think that's Gullan's best position, playing out on the left.
That's all he does.
But I think that like the best that we've ever seen him was that sort of COVID season, towards the end of that COVID season when we had him and Vaughan. Sort of Vaughan was more up top and Gullan was cutting him from the left. And we'd see those sort of overloading attacks. And the perfect example was the Fife derby against Dunfermline when he cut in with the ball and then scalped in 2 goals. So yeah, I think that he deserves a huge amount of credit. And it was just, again, it's just great to see the 2 of them back, because we've sort of looked before in that Airdrie game where we're looking at the bench and you've got no one to bring on. With this game, it was completely different. It was great. So
yeah. And I want to give a lot of credit to Scott McGill too, because as we've said, there's no getting away from it, right? He is the sort of the weak point in that back 4 in the back half of that game, purely because he's out of position. So it's not a criticism of him. That's not his fault. But it's so easy for your head to go down. He knows, like, I've just been cooked twice for these goals. And then, I mean, again, it's so naive to just leave him the space on that left side. But Scott McGill, and again, I really want to give him a lot of credit for this, because he's not a fullback, he's not a wing back, but he sees the space in that channel and he's only got one thought. So I'm running into this space. Easton knocks the ball to him, he goes into that space. And I think you can see he wants to, if he can, get it onto his right foot, but the defender's covering that, fine. Byline and an excellent cross. And then Jack Hamilton, obviously, excellent header as well. Carol, give us your thoughts on that goal, please.
Well, from the pictures, it's like when Queen's Park did their substitutions, you're like, why are they doing it? What's happening? And Rovers just seem to go, right, well, we can go, because they are not scoring now. Not scoring now. Before the substitutions, my optimism was there, but my realism was, we're going to lose this, and we're going to lose another 2 goals, and we could lose 5 here and just the afternoon go belly up. But yeah, it just seemed to, everyone just went, nope, we can go forward, we can move forward. Looking at the ticker from the app that I follow, Don Thomas goes off, and then it's just a couple of attempts from Queen's Park, and then the goal from Jam Hamilton, assisted by Scott McGill. It's, yeah. And you could see that just from the Raith TV, that substitution was the turning point, and I have no idea why they did it. Like that they did it, appreciate they did it, thank you very much, but no idea why. No idea why.
Exactly it. John,
actually, sorry, I was just going to say, it starts a wee bit earlier than that, though. If you actually, it starts with Scott Brown losing the ball. We're playing at this point, some kind of weird back 3. Ross Millen pops up on the left wing at one point. Like, it turned into a school game, actually. It was great. It was like, right, boys, just go for it. But Scott Brown loses the ball, and they kind of have a bit of a break. There's a couple of them break up the pitch. Scott Brown charges them down and takes the ball back off them. And I'm thinking, at that point, the Queen's Park boy just run to the corner and hold on.
Was that the Barry Hepburn Queen's Park that he made an attempt?
Yeah.
Was it the left side of the box or something?
Tried to sort of backheel the ball to his pal and just tripped over it.
Yeah.
And at that point, again, you could see it's like they don't fancy this. They are worried.
No.
They don't know where to turn, because they've only got other guys who are 20 years old.
They've got no confidence either up front or behind them. They're kind of just in the middle going,
And I think the big thing, I'm glad you said that, Blair, because I was going to forget to bring it up. We talked about Murray ball, and I think we all talked about Murray ball last season, where it's chaos, is its underlying feature, but it's its underlying strength and its underlying weakness. You know, by its nature, you can't control it. It's very, very chaotic, and you're just hoping something falls for you. Where I think it works now that it didn't work before was that last year we only really had Scott Brown, and he was one of the ones who would come out to let that kind of happen. Because you think, right, all the guys in the park, who's maybe on the less likely side to score? Probably Scott Brown. He's going to come out. We're going to stick a striker on or something. Now that we've got both Scott Brown and Sean Byrne on that side, it's so much more stable. So he still takes Sean Byrne away, and he said himself after the game, because we were getting beat. Sean Byrne wasn't coming off at 1-1, came off as soon as it went to 2-1. But Scott Brown's still there. And as you say, they go to the back three. Somehow Ross Millen ends up on the left for a period before they rotated back around again. But Scott Brown steps out, and I think that is possibly the key sort of change in that whole piece, that Scott Brown is just ramming around the middle of the park, and these laddies they don't know what to do, don't know how to cope, and that gives you that foundation for the rest to come through. John, why don't you give us your thoughts on both Jack Hamilton's goal and Jamie Gullan winning that penalty as well?
Well, it was quite funny because I've been the sad man that I am. I phoned both Jack and Scott to thank them for their things, and I said to Scott, what a brilliant crossing it was, and Jack's header was just superb. And when I spoke to Jack, I said, my God, I thought Scott McGill only used his left foot for the clutch. And he said, fuck me, doesn't he drive? Sums it up. But what a brilliant goal. What a brilliant cross as well, you know, to have him going forward like that and get to the byline or near the byline and cut it in. And it was Jack Hamilton, the way that you saw that he just stepped back from the defender, and it was watching the highlights this morning. You see him motioning in the build up to that he was going to be in that position, and it was great. And as you boys and Carol have said, you know, the fact that Jamie Gullan was in that position and when he was on a run, he was leaving Queen's Park players in his way because he went past them and just driving us forward, and then the ball would come back and Dylan Easton would have a wee pop. I thought at the time, oh, that's a clear penalty. Haven't seen the highlights now. I'm not so sure. I have to say on the Craig Napier as a referee, whenever he came in as a referee, I thought, oh my God, he's a weird guy the way he runs about. And I said to people, oh, we've got this referee again. He reminds me of Marty McFly's dad. And the way he runs about, because even yesterday he did a big loop round rather than running straight over when a free kick was awarded. And when he gave the penalty, I thought, oh my God, this is wonderful. But just these guys came on with Dylan Easton showing a wee bit craft, the pace of Gullan taking them up the wing. It was wonderful. And as you said, Robbie, a week ago, we would have had to look at the bench for guys to come on. It just shows you the strength that we have once these guys are back.
And that, just on that Jack Hamilton goal as well, Robbie, I know you want to come in on a point related to this. I don't know if they give out BAFTAs for second tier football highlights in Scotland, but the angle of Jack Hamilton's goal that they've got, like the reverse angle, and it's perfectly framed so that you get the cross, you get the header back across the goal, and it's just the away end filling the rest of that frame, is incredible. And I think there was a message to pass on for sort of Ben McAdam and the other guys involved in setting up some of these angles.
Yeah, I'll come to that in a second, because I do actually want to speak and give a bit of praise to Jack Hamilton. I think that is sort of, when Jack Hamilton came in, this was exactly what we were sort of hoping for and expecting from him, just to have that presence in the penalty box. And I sort of said before that he's been used as a target man, and you're just waiting for this. And you get, again, you think Ross Millen, Josh Millen getting balls into the box, and he'll be there. He'll be there to get it. I did not expect it to be Scott McGill, but we will 100% take it. I'm 100% here for it. And just to, as you say, steps off the man and to get it back across the goal. It's such a well-taken header, and he deserves so much praise. I'm just really happy for the guy. Hopefully it can get him off the mark. He can get a bit of consistency in terms of running. He's obviously had a few goals this season so far, but it's been quite stop-start for him just due to injuries and things coming in and out the squad. So yeah, really delighted firstly for Jack Hamilton. But yeah, I was chatting last night, and yeah, Ben McAdam deserves a huge amount of praise. He's a volunteer. I know that he wasn't a Rovers fan before he started doing the work that he's doing for the social media and the pitch side cameras. But wow, just fantastic scenes that he's managed to get down there. And he just comes across as a really good guy. We've got that rapport, I think, at the club at the moment, though, where you can get someone like that coming in and just, as I say, like I put on the socials for the podcast, just the GTA San Andreas. Ah, shit, here we go again. Because he's just consistently there, just getting these moments of fans, of players, goals. And it's happened so many times this season that we come away and you see it from a different perspective, and it's brilliant. So fair play to you, Ben. I'm really glad that you're involved with the club, and long may it continue, because you're, again, just part of a journey for us all. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd chip in there. Just when I did the social media stuff a couple of years ago, we were desperate to have somebody who was doing that, and we just didn't have anybody. Like it's one of them. As you've mentioned already, he's a volunteer, and much like one of the guys that never quite got a mention about the unsung hero thing, but Neil Inge, who
a perfect example. Funnily enough, Davey Hancock messaged me there just to say to give him a shout, because I think he was covering a bit as well yesterday.
He's the brains behind the operation. Like he is it. And again, not a football fan particularly, certainly not a Rovers fan. Like he just got involved. I mean, he's the guy that I heard Carol talking about the tinfoil on the far side. He devised it all, and then when the pitch was getting relayed, he was the guy that went, "Can we not just put like a big pipe down and run a cable through it?" So they did. And it's so simple, but it's these volunteers that kind of do that job. And for somebody like, we all do this because we love this club, and because you can't imagine doing anything else with your Saturday. So when you guys set this up and said, "Do you want to come on and talk about the Rovers for an hour?" I was like 100%. But these guys they're not even football fans, some of them, and they're getting involved just for the love of getting involved. It's tremendous.
Neil came from the hospital radio with the treatment room, and he was the guy that helped set that up. And he's a star.
Yeah, phenomenal guy.
Absolutely, full credit to all these guys, because it's the output is phenomenal, and absolutely you see every inch of the hard work that's gone into it. You're absolutely seeing that in what we get back now. So absolutely, thank you to everyone involved. So on yesterday's game, then, is there anything else anybody wants to chuck it? Will we talk about the penalty again for another 20 minutes?
Go on.
I was going to say, I'd quite like to jump in just very quickly and say, I know we've had the debate about who the best player in the championship is, but again, a special mention to Mr. Sam Stanton, who was incredible yesterday, and the vision for Murray to play a midfield three in the second half, right towards the end, with Scott Brown, with Sam Stanton on either side of him, was just because he was everywhere. He covered every single blade of grass on that pitch. And just I just feel like he's the driving force behind everything. Like, and he does so much stuff that, I mean, we talk about Dylan Easton because he's the greatest showman, and he genuinely is, but Sam Stanton, and I loved, if you get a chance to see the highlights again, there's a bit where they're all the players are coming over, and Sam Stanton goes over and shakes somebody's hand and just walks in the tunnel. He's like, "Sorry, boys, got a bus to catch. I'm off." Brilliant.
Just thinking, like the last 5 minutes of that game yesterday, it was almost like Murray just said, fuck it, each of you do what you're best at. So you had Jamie Gullan bombing down the left, Dylan Easton bombing down the left, Scott McGill thinking, I'm a bit better going forward, Jack Hamilton bullying folk, Scott Brown charging about, just bombing into things, and then Sam Stanton, with his wee socks around his ankles and his wee beard just scurrying about and taking the ball off people. And as I say, Ross Millen, like some kind of big lanky Tom Brady quarterback, just directing it all from the back. It was absolute magnificent chaos. We had one team had a Dutchman in the dugout, but they weren't the ones playing total football. But no, just to absolutely echo what you're saying, Blair. Just a word for Stanton as well. He's such a quiet guy. Just comes across as a really, really quiet, unassuming guy, but just such an exceptionally talented player who delivers that standard for us every single week.
I haven't mentioned Big Kev. He made some great saves.
I know.
I think what we're seeing is it's Euan Murray's answer to the Dutch school. It's like the Kirkcaldy version. It's T-Hall football. It's what we are seeing. Let's do a quick whip round the man of the match then and see if we can get Kev a mention. Robbie, kick us off. Man of the match for you on that one?
I'll go with Big Kev. I think that some of the saves as Blair's touched on, especially in the first half, there was a few where he just turns away and just managed to pull them off. And just thoroughly good guy, completely invested. You can see how happy he is just now that he's playing regular football and getting that time. And he's just absolutely thriving. So more power to him, which is great. So it's quite interesting to see quite a lot of the Hibs fans now on the quote tweets and things like that for social media now saying, why did we let this guy go? I know that David Marshall's got like so much experience compared to him, but at the same time, we've won ourselves a watch with this one. He's just a very, very good goalkeeper. He's had obviously a few hairy moments, as we all know, but we accept it, and he comes up with the goods time and time again. So, love Absolutely. Big Kev.
Blair, man of the match from you, please.
Yeah, I've already said it. Sam Stanton for me. And to be fair, in a game where you could have picked half a dozen, but Sam Stanton was imperious yesterday.
Perfect. Carol?
I'm going to take Ross Millen just for the penalty and the bra striptease alone. I mean, being able to get that sports bra off and on, amazing.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think
did you see his thigh muscles in one of those photos? I was like,
yes. It was actually, Carol, can I just say, it was even better live. As a happily married man, I enjoyed that very much. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, they're definitely
muscles.
On form. I think this season. There's hats off to fitness.
Yeah, I'm right there with you for the man of the match. I think some games it can just be one kick of the ball that takes the man of the match, and he was excellent throughout, but the technique and the stones to go and finish a game like that, I think that wins him the champagne for me. John, how about you?
Sam Stanton for me, for what for the work he did, for the way he brought everybody into the game, the way he won tackles, the way he drove us forward at times. I think that was my man of the match. And
Les, how about you?
I'm also going to go for Ross Millen for a couple of reasons. For just the absolute cool head under pressure to take the penalty, and also for then removing his shirt and his sports bra, and as we've just talked about, the inspiration that has given me to go on a fitness kick. I was on the train home last night. Not that you would be drinking on the train anyway, but I thought, right, no cans tonight, weights like tomorrow. On that basis, I'm going to try and get myself into better shape. So if Ross Millen, one, thank you for the penalty. Thank you also for giving me a bit of inspiration to try and keep myself in shape.
Can I just ask an additional question here? Who is Mrs. Mabon's man of the match?
Her man of the match was, I think it was Scott Brown. She quite liked the idea of just seeing somebody with our captain's band charging about and, taking control of situations and things like that. And, the Japanese kind of characteristics of leadership and seeing a captain standing up. And again, just a wee word on that note for Scott Brown as well. We've talked about it before. we're asking him to do every week something that isn't kind of the top thing in his skill set. But, you know, every week he does it without fail. Okay, he's not a centre-back, but he's not shipping goals either. So, again, a wee word for Scott Brown from Mrs. Mabon.
Yeah, thoroughly well deserved. So, not often that we get madness like yesterday, but I think the beauty of football really is that it does deliver these moments where everybody just goes mad. You get arms in the air, you get bodies flying everywhere. And today's big question is going to keep us on that theme. So I would like to hear about some other times where we've had some arms up in the air. So I want you, please, to give me your best limbs. And I'm going to start with Robbie, please.
Yeah, initially I went with Damien Castelnuovo against Ayr, just because of the whole. I think like during that game, Brian Graham had got sent off, and we'd gone, been back and forth, and then they went into a lead, and then we pulled it back and got the winner. But yeah, just at the end of that game, it's just sheer relief. But I'm actually going to change it at the last minute, and I don't know if anyone else has got this, but I think Alan Walker against Dunfermline, that looping header when we came back from 2-0 down to draw 2-2, kept us top of the league. And I just remember me and my friends, we'd started off at the back of the stand, and then we moved down the front to get our whole group together, and we were on the left-hand side of the goal. So we saw it come in, and we realised it was going in a sort of split second before anyone else did. But straight away, I fell over the seat in front. I've grabbed onto the guy in front of me who's carried me halfway along the row, running about the front of the stand, going mental, hugging my friend, just charging into each other. Just the whole atmosphere at the end of the game was just fantastic. It was just ridiculously good to watch. And just completely one of those results that's against the odds. So yeah, that would be my pick. Just the memory of just seeing my friend at the front of the stand, just running into each other, just bear hugging, and just the whole atmosphere at the end. I think it would have been a bit unfair to have gone with Stanton's one earlier in the season, which deserves a mention as well. But yeah, absolutely cannot beat that feeling of a last minute goal, particularly if it's a winner. In this case, it wasn't, but yeah.
Well, I mean, John mentioned Back to the Future earlier. I don't think time has ever moved slower than the time between the ball leaving Alan Walker's forehead and actually crossing the line. It just seemed to hang in the air forever. But that was an absolute beauty. That was a really, really good one. Let's see, John. Next one from you, please.
Well, I've got a picture in the background there, and my one will be Gordon Dale's equaliser in the last minute of the Coca-Cola Cup. Probably the biggest game of our history. I remember sitting thinking, "Oh, we've lost. We're going to lose 2-1," you know. And I was thinking, I was kind of sick, thinking, we're going to get all these patronising things about, oh, your wee team did well, they came close. And then Jason Dare has this shot. Gordon Marshall parries it out, and Gordon runs in. And I think it was Craig Brewster that said in the commentary or after the game, said if it hit his nose and gone in, it would have taken the whole fucking net away, you know. But it was just the greatest moment. And I just saw people crying around me, you know, and it was just the greatest moment. That and being in Argentina when I put my phone on. But I'm not going back to that again.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think quite simply the greatest moment for this football club. Carol, let's have a story from you, please.
Well, I mean, it's been a long time since I've had proper limb experience, but I think when the final against Rangers, because I'd flown in, I'd got a ticket on my own, so I knew nobody around me. I knew nothing was happening, and I was just like, we're going to lose this, and I'm going to have to put up with my father-in-law, my partner, just with their sarcastic messages. And just when that goal went in the back of the net, I don't know, I ended up down the front of the stadium. I have no idea how I was down the front of the seats, no idea who these people are, was hugging and kissing random strangers. Yep. Yeah. I mean, that was it, just sitting there on my own going, oh, this is going to be awful, and I'm going to have to go home on my own and all that. No. fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
I think that moment is actually best encapsulated by John Baird himself, who is quite visibly losing his mind.
Yes.
Yeah,
He
he's
just has
literally
no
trying to tear his
idea
head off.
what to do, and there's
Yeah.
thousands of people behind them, and all of us were exactly the same.
Hearing
Yeah,
it was
I do. I love the video and the fact that it cuts to the dugout and Grant Murray strolling back, but you see the late Brian Marr, the kit man at the time, turning round and just going to the stand like that, which is full of Rangers fans. And I've no idea who he's doing it to, but it's absolutely glorious. And just, again, just the whole arrogance from them before the game, that whole tifo of place the victory crown on the pride of Glasgow Town or whatever birthday care pish it was that they had. And just fantastic. You just,
and then just watching it empty afterwards, just watching it just go from three sides of
100%.
Rangers fans to absolutely nothing. And I kind of made my peace with it. We're going to go, we're going to have a good day out. This is going to be a fun day. I've flown back from Barcelona. It'll be a great afternoon, and I'll fly back on Monday and it'll be, oh well, at least we put in a good show. No. It was the best.
It was
best.
funny leaving the ground that day because I bumped into Tam, who sits just the row behind me, just along to the left. And it was so funny because I was like, oh, it's you. And then we just laughed and started hugging each other. Like, just completely out of character for both of us, just laughing at it, just how surreal and stupid it was. But that's why you go. That's 100% why you go.
That's exactly it. Okay, Leslie, you're next, please.
Well, I'm taking us back in history to around the same sort of period in history as John has just talked about. And I'm going to a little bit later in that season because some of you might remember long ago, the pathway between the second level and first level of Scottish football was a bit clearer. You know, you didn't have what you have now, where a cash-rich team comes down and they just turn the taps on and bounce straight back up, and they just scuttle between. It used to be the case that clubs could actually have a fair bit of mobility between divisions. This was the case in the 1994-95 season, where we were right up there, going towards the end of the season with a real chance of getting promoted back into the Premier League, having been relegated the season before. And we were away to St Johnstone at McDermott Park, and we'd been losing 1-0. And sometime quite late in the second half, Alan Preston scored an amazing volley, which just happened to be into our net. It was an own goal for, Biscuits off the radio. A beautiful, it was one of the best goals I've ever seen. It also happened to be an own goal. So that was 1-1. And then, pretty near the end of the game, Stevie Crawford breaks free, fires the ball past him. I'm assuming it must have been Alan Mean in the St Johnstone goal. And bear in mind, at this point, I'm 10. Like, I'm not allowed to go to games on my own. This random bloke just picks me up. I don't know who he is. I guess, we're talking about a fair point in history where you could just do stuff like that. This random bloke just picks me up. And I end up about, 30 metres and 3 rows away from where my dad was. I must have been wearing that very goalie top there. I'm assuming that I must have been wearing that goalie top and a wee barber jacket as well, in tribute to the Perthshire countryside. And this guy just picked me up, absolute limbs, seams behind the goal. And Graham Meldrum had told me recently on Twitter that was actually the last goal we scored that season. And John, you'll correct me if I'm wrong here, that was the last goal we scored that season. And it was enough to just get us over the line and get us back into the Premier League. So that was my first experience of limbs. And looking back on it, I was really lucky that some of my earliest memories as a Rovers fan were from some of those great moments in our history. And it's really nice to now be seeing some of that kind of stuff again up at the right end of the championship.
Absolutely fantastic. A brilliant story. And Blair, I'm going to just assume you've got 4 or 5 for us.
I really do. You want me to go now, yeah? So
I would love you to, please.
I'm going to do one, but I've got to be honest, I'm itching to talk about a dozen of them. Like, it's the one thing that...
Go on.
Go for it.
I didn't want to steal Duncan's, but I mean, you've got
No, you carry on.
The goal that put the champagne back on
time
ice.
to you.
The goal that put the champagne back on ice, Paniotu against Rangers. You've got Brian Potter making the save in the semi-final in the Coca-Cola Cup run. I mean, the Walker one, yeah. You've got Sam Stanton this season, Vaughan this season. You've got there's it's the one thing I love as a football fan. Laurie Ellis at Dundee, even though it's early on, it was just the celebration right in front of amazing. But the one for me was the 2018 season under Barry Smith. And it's a game that I'll never forget as long as I live. It was actually my birthday. We were out the night before and I was hanging. I was so hungover. I was getting picked up by my mate. I literally threw up in a bush before I got in his car. Like, I was struggling. And at one point, I got in his car, sat down and went, I think I'm going to go today. I was like, I'm really struggling. And I went, no, do you know what? I'll be fine. It's Airdrie away. They serve pot noodles at half time. I'll be all right. I'll make it. So we go through, and João Victoria turns out to be the best player in League One that season for some reason, up against Jamie Watson at right back for us. And we were rotten. We were absolutely awful. So we're 2-0 down. We pull one back through, I think it was Liam Buchanan got the first one. Pull one back, and at 2-1, you're thinking, this is rotten. They then, we get Ian Davidson sent off for a headbutt. So you're
miles away from any action on the pitch as well.
Totally.
It's like running back from a corner.
And it just
Classic
and it was right, actually pretty much right in line with where we were in that stand at Airdrie. And we all just went, oh, fuck's sake, Davo. Like, come on, mate. So you're 2-1 down to 10 men. And then 10 minutes later, they score. João Victoria scores again to go 3-1. And you're like, get this game in the bin. Like, it is awful. And then it just turned out of nothing. And I mean, my memory, I think Benny got injured and had gone off as well. So we were kind of not in any great shakes, but it was like Nathan Flanagan, obviously Nisbet up front, Duggan, yeah. And it was just that thing of we score, and then you're going, here, we've maybe got a wee chance here. It's 3-2, and then we score again to go 3 each. And then you're thinking, go on. And then 90 plus, it must be 4 or 5 minutes after 90, and we score again to go 4-3 up. And it's hilarious because they credited Liam Buchanan with a hat-trick that day, and it wasn't. It was 2 each. It was him and Nisbet got 2 each, but Nisbet never ever got given that goal. But I just remembered absolute limbs everywhere, 3 rows in front, jumping about like a madman. And I was still doing social media at that point, so I'm like pulling out the phone and trying to update, is like just going, a great game.
If you get a chance, Kev Barretto's got on his YouTube account, he's got a lot of like fan videos in terms of 90th, goals in general, just of him, and it's just his brilliant accent just in the background going, fucking hell. And it's just fantastic. It sums it up. But my friend, he had a video of the free kick right as we got the equaliser, and he's like, Buchanan hat-trick, and we're just giggling away to ourselves like we kids at the prospect that we might get a draw, because it was just so surreal with 10 minutes to go that we could go from 3-1 with 10 men to getting that equaliser and then going on to win. But I think with Chris Duggan, it's interesting because you don't remember much about his time with Rovers, but he was involved with some pretty big moments where he had the Derby game where he got the crossing for Vaughan, and then Ashcroft got sent off for the Pars, and then he was in the build-up for that fourth goal at Airdrie. So I know he's back over in Australia now, but just a really strange to think back at that period in terms of our club.
I just love it because we were awful. Like, we didn't deserve a point. We were honestly atrocious that day. And to come out 4-3 up, having been murdered for, 85 minutes of the game. It's the things that, as a football fan, like we've said before, how do people that don't watch football feel that? I don't know what they do. Like, it's tremendous.
Social media, what happened to Ross Millen's goal gif yesterday? Social media kind of stopped when we equalised. The penalty got announced, and then there was nothing afterwards. Where's this goal gif? I want the
goals are too big to fit.
That's Carol. That's what the kids call breaking the internet. I think it's what Ross Millen did yesterday.
Or broke the updater.
Yeah. I'm just going to give a very quick nod to kind of a specific scenario of limbs that I particularly enjoy. And I get 2 examples that played out almost exactly the same way. And it's scoring at the other end, and then you get that celebration for the length of the run of the celebration from one goal to the other end. And I'm thinking specifically of Taddy at Pittodrie, and then Regan Hendry at Firhill in that last game before lockdown. It's that sort of like just, however many hundreds of people it is, just beckoning that one guy as he's got 100 yards to sprint. It's just a really specific but a really, really enjoyable scenario to be in, and
I was going to say,
spilling onto.
It's that pulling them in. There's that I mentioned the Laurie Ellis goal at Dundee. If you actually look, there's that famous photo that's taken from the other end, and it's him standing with his arms. If you look just above his right shoulder, I'm literally doing that. I'm in the front row. I'm like,
I've got that on my phone. I'll include it as part of the.
It's every single individual, just quite literally and quite simply, just being like, "Come and give me a hug. Come and cuddle me," and the other thing with that is from yesterday is just before we started recording, the Rovers put up a clip, and I don't know if it's Ben or if it's someone else, but the camera is right at the front of the stand as the penalty's being taken. And what I really like about it is at the beginning, it's clearly like some young guys, it's like, younger teenagers who are there. It's maybe a 40-second clip, and you just see the age of the supporters coming down the stand just gradually increases as the celebrations go on, which is just great content. Absolutely delighted to see it.
I was going to say, just before we move on, something I meant to mention when we talked about the game, but special mention to those young boys at the front. As Leslie said, the slavering mess that they become at the front and how angry they are. But the point in the first half, I don't know if any of that were there clocked it. They were having a to and fro with what can only be described as a group of 12-year-olds in the Queen's Park end. And there was one little kid in the Queen's Park end literally stood up, and this is one for the YouTubers, but he's standing up and he's like, come on then, bring it on, let's go. We've literally got guys at the front giving it come on, outside, and I'm like, he's 12.
I'm under the impression that section was the free primary school tickets that Queen's Park had given out.
Good. You love to hear it. I did enjoy hearing over the sort of the noise of the background of the crowd, and you hear them chanting about Rovers getting battered everywhere they go, despite the fact that they're in such horrendous form, and we're second top of the league. But again, there's no logic to football. You've just got to kind of run with it. I mean, people call Hibs fans spoon burners, despite Leaf being one of the more affluent areas now of Edinburgh. Dunfermline call us the wee team, despite the fact we're quite clearly far more substantial than they are. You've just got to accept that there's no logic in it.
That's exactly it. As long as everybody has fun, and I certainly had fun yesterday. And I tell you what, just to kind of bring us to a close today, we're going to do something just a little bit different, a little bit special, I think. So on this Remembrance Sunday, I am going to hand this over to esteemed Raith Rovers club historian John Greer, and he's going to tell us all just a little bit more about McRae's battalion and the men who served.
Well, that's the famous photo we've all seen. 3 of these players and soldiers were honoured in the Raith Rovers Hall of Fame. First of all, we have Jimmy Scott, who was killed in action. He died on the 12th of March, 1916. He was the first professional footballer to be killed during the war. We also have Jimmy Scott, who died on the 1st of July, 2016, and he was killed on the first day of the Battle of the Somme. We also have George McClay, who won a distinguished honour he received the military medal, which was the non-commissioned officer's equivalent of the military cross. And he died at Passchendaele in October 1917. These guys served us very well.